Hello football! Today we have a very cool match. Juventus Milan 0-3, where Pioli's gang make a good shit on Pirlo and his team, because the next two opponents of Juventus are Sassuolo and Inter, and if they play the same way, then in the next season they will have to conquer the Europa League along with Liverpool. So let's begin. Usually when such important games of the season come, especially in the end, you need to approach them with ideas, you have to prepare for the opponent, tune into the game and give all your best. But today only one team was observing all these points. This is Milan, which more than deservedly earns victory. What can be said about Juventus? Nothing changes with this team. Remember, at the very beginning of the season and before the season, Pirlo really experimented constantly looking for some ideas, and they were interesting, they were generally suitable, some were inappropriate, but at the same time bold. But now it's the last half of the season. I don't understand whether Pirlo is disappointed in his team and is simply stagnating, already waiting for him to be fired to hell, which is unlikely, or perhaps he thinks that this option is ideal for the team and he thinks like, now we will be hammering into the wall like rams, we will not develop links and connections and everything will be fine with us. His game model is of course interesting, it's modern, it's cool, but you need to admit that not everything that you want to do with the team can be implemented when you don't have enough or you have the wrong selection of players. Pay attention to that Pioli, he does not dictate the model of the game that he wants, he just starts with what he has. Of course, it's not Pirlo's fault that the club has now such a selection of players. This is affected by the ambiguous transfer policy of the last few years and the frequent change of coaches. Specifically, if we talk about Pirlo, then in general no one understood what specific players he needed and what he would build in general. In the end, it turned out, what the hell. Specifically in this game we step on the same rake again. Again it is 4-4-2, again the dead center of the field which the ball cannot move forward or does not want, or I do not know what is happening to the midfield players and how Pirlo hopes that these players with these functions that they have at the moment, how they will drag the ball forward. But we have two forwards, cool, super powerful, everyone in the world knows about them, but what's the use of those two forwards if the ball doesn't even reach them? What do we see in the end, or rather what we don't see in the end? We don't see Ronaldo, we don't see Morata from the very beginning to the very end of the game. Without the ball, Cristiano, at the age of 370, must puff off, roll back and try to catch the ball somewhere in the center in order to at least sniff it. As a result, if he tries to drag, he endlessly loses. And if he doesn't try to drag, it means that he simply waits endlessly ahead until the ball is delivered to him, but it will not be delivered because there is no one to do it. This is an endless cycle, endless, and it's time to accept, dear Andrea Pirlo, that nothing will change. This is the same as, I don't know, trying to stop the stream without your gaze, even though you look at it for infinity, with any look, with and no matter, he will not stop, because your view is not created for this and this team, or rather, this selection of players is not for such a model of the game. Okay, the attackers are dependent players and the ball they need to be delivered, but where's the midfield? Okay, we saw Bentancur. He at least gives a bonus in defense and tries, albeit clumsy, albeit with a bunch of mistakes, to push the ball forward with the team. But where's Rabiot? Where's McKennie? What is the point in having them at all, and what are their functions? That is, are you really serious about it? You're Juventus, one of the most recognizable clubs in the world, one of the largest, the very club that was going to create a super league with blackjack and marbles. And you, Juventus, has all the hope that Bentancur pushed the ball forward? Seriously? Why do you have Chiesa again, who is the only bright spot in this dark ass, should be squeezed on the flank of Ronaldo? Why can Milan and Ibrahimovic, who is about 400 years old, put pressure and force Juve to play back, while Juventus, with its composition that is not inferior in the class, cannot impose anything? Obviously, after all, the changes are already asking. It's still a disastrous season, it's still worse not to make. At least you have to make some changes, at least change the players' functions a little. You know them better. We only see them at the matches, and you see them in training. You know everything about them in detail. If you really want to, that's just Pirlo recently wrote me by the mail, so it's good. Okay, we will now give you a couple of tips as an absolutely free consultation. Maybe this will really help you. We only be glad. It's not even necessary for you to drop a couple of bitcoins to my account, but it's desirable and strongly advisable. Let's say instead of the banal 4-4-2, we try the 4-1-4-1 scheme. We return to Bonucci regardless of this form instead of Chiellini, just so that he throws his trademark passes from the depths and we leave the defense flanks the same. As a pure defensive player or such a destroyer, we use Bentancur as an aid to the central defenders. I think many people don't even know how good he can be in this role. On the right flank we put Chiesa, and on the left, if we really need to insert Ronaldo, let we put him. If there is courage, then we'll leave him in reserve and put a runner who is comfortable to feed with his left foot. To the word Bernardeschi and Kulusevski, they are left-footed. We put Rabiot and Dybala in the center. The first is more responsible for securing the flank, and Dybala is for the advancement. Well, and we put Morata in front so that there was someone to laugh at. Now the most important thing, and that is the function. Here you can change everything depending on the plot of the match, but such initial settings can be very simple to use. Morata and Ronaldo are always in the penalty area and try to be there when the team works with the ball. That is, they terrorizes, keeps opponents' defenders in the tension. Sandro connects from one flank and with the function of throws into the penalty area, let him constantly load it as soon as he has the given opportunity. From the other flank, Chiesa feels himself in a free role. He does not bother anyone, no one bothers him. Let him turn on the individual skills and let him create, because he is a truly amazing player. Dybala is already making his way through the center, but during defense, this scheme should be rebuilt to 4-4-2, as you used to, and here Morata and Dybala remain in front. Again, this option is not the only one. It can generally fail to death, but you have to try. And the rest will already depend on how you charge the players and how you explain to them what to do. And of course, how you will change something along the way. Okay, for now, I think that's enough. Let's talk about the good. Let's talk about Milan, because everything is great there. At the end of the season there was a difficult period. Now the team was somehow excited. As for this particular match, it's worth to say, and that's most important thing, that Pioli, shown his inherent insight, puts Brahim Diaz in the starting lineup and moreover puts him in a position under the striker, although usually Çalhanoğlu plays there. And the most interesting thing about Brahim Diaz and Çalhanoğlu is that they are absolutely different players. Çalhanoğlu is a classic Turkish creator and Brahim Diaz is a pure individualist. But in fact, Pioli did not refuse Çalhanoğlu either. Nominally he came out on the left, although in fact he also played closer to the center and did what he was supposed to do. So Pioli simply gave up the width and essentially gave the flank to Hernandez, instead of loading the area in front of the penalty area. And what do we see in the end? Diaz is the most striking player, rebounds are all behind Milan, Diaz climbs into the penalty area at every opportunity, enters into beating, trying to bring it to a blow on his own. At the same time, Milan does not abandon the usual game. That is, there is always Zlatan Ibrahimovic in front, on whom you can always throw, there is Çalhanoğlu with his vision and pass, the center is concreted by Kessie and Benacer, and so on. Salamakers also plays in his usual style, in his usual manner, trying to block everything that goes through the center of the field, and by the way, he eventually became the leader in interceptions. And defense, look at the defense of Tomori and Kjaer, they just blocked everything, they barricaded everything, and Donnarumma was left particularly out of work, although it would seem that Tomori and Kjaer, well, this is unlikely to be any extra concrete bunch in the game against Juventus. But no, we see a completely different picture. But the most important attitudes of Milan and the attitude of Juventus are simply incomparable. What do we see before the starting whistle? Milan gathers in a circle, Ibrahimovic as a leader pushes a speech and calls for subscribing to a footballnik, he energizes young players, and in the end everyone acts with maximum confidence. They are not afraid to make mistakes, they are not afraid to go into pressure or outplay. And despite the fact that Milan gives an advantage in the game pattern, it is mentally obvious that they are many times stronger than their opponents. And after that you look at Juventus and you want to cry. There is a complete discord. As if the players do not know each other. 3 or 4 players are laid out on the field. Conditional there: Chiesa, Ronaldo, De Ligt, and let it be okay, Betancourt. But else, I don't know, they are like some background music that no one listen to and no one get high of it. That's about Juventus. Milan, against this background, scores goals for every taste. First, Diaz scores alone on an individual skills, then earns a penalty, scores from a standard, penetrates between the lines, does everything beautifully, combine well, and so on. And Juventus has flaws in every episode, an eternal loss of concentration and lack of desire. In short, it's horror. And the main thing is that Pirlo, seeing that, well, that's everything's out of order, he does not dare to replace anybody. Dybala made a game in the last match, but here he got some damn 10 minutes, although it was enough for him to deliver the most blows in the team. So in general, everything in Juventus is so ridiculous and funny that it's sad to say. I mean, really, I have so contradictory impressions and feelings from them. Juventus fans, I honestly sympathize with you in a good way. Don't be sad, everything must be good with time. How long it will take is unknown, but it will be good.